Hey, Jordan from the Affirmation Project. And today I want to talk about a detailed death. Now, what I mean by that is I'm kind of fascinated with the subject of death and what potentially happens once we pass on and the process of passing on. Now, at the moment, I'm currently at my spouse's father's house in New Zealand, and now he has stage 4 lung cancer. So it's definitely terminal. He'll have, maybe weeks, months, years if he's very lucky. So at the moment, I'm kind of seeing the whole process play out. And something that I find hard to understand, it's mainly cultural issues around the subject of death, is the avoidance of confronting kind of the position that he's in. That's with his loved ones, with himself, with the doctors as well. Everybody's very reluctant to discuss the fact that he is going to die and what that will entail, and how to prepare for death, which for me, I feel like that's kind of the whole point of life, to be honest. I've talked about it on my previous videos, but if you envision how long the universe has been around, if what science tells us is true, and about how old the atoms are that make up your body and everything around us, then the 60 to 80 years that we spend, physically here is kind of like a sandfly's existence. It's a blip, it's the tiniest of specks on the timeline of existence. So to give so much kind of credence and status to this physical, meat suit that we're wearing now and our experience in the physical realm at the moment, to me is bizarre, because I'm a firm believer in that consciousness continues after the body, stops functioning. And for me, the whole point of being here is just to maybe experience the physical realm. We can dive into topics such as, are we in a soul farm just, creating loosh? That's a topic for another time. Excuse my phone. So basically, as I say, there's a lack of confrontation on the subject of death. Now, for me, I'm going to spend the next however long I have exploring, different philosophies, what ancient cultures have said about what happens in death, subjects such as reincarnation, such as soul traps. All this is going to be kind of my focus, because I don't know about any of you guys, but I'm planning on getting the hell out of here when I die. So what I mean by that is, it does seem to be an energy farm. I don't know what we're farming for. Sorry about that, guys. One of the Matrix's many distractions. So I was just kind of making the point that I feel like this is an energy farm of some sort, and I haven't been able to figure out what we're farming for or the purpose of it yet. But all I know is that I don't want to be stuck in the 5 cents realm once I die. I want to move beyond, and if there is so many tricks played on us whilst we're experiencing this world for the 80 or so years that we're here, we're constantly lied to and manipulated. I feel like we're very easy to manipulate as well. So I think it would be very naive to consider that once we die, that the manipulation stops there and everything becomes pure. I think that would be very naive indeed, because if we are being manipulated so much, and with a lot of the research I've done, it could be from beyond our perceptions. So beyond the 5 cents realm, that's a possibility for me. So when we die, we could enter into the realm of what is manipulating us. And if they make it all seem rosy, and then we're sent back here, or tricked into reincarnating back here to, do the energy farm all over again, I want to be prepared to kind of ascend above that and not fall for the trick. There are many near-death experience accounts with people encountering various entities. Some would call them archons, where they're attempted to be tricked into reincarnating on this earth. So that for me is that's just one of the roots of death. Like, that's just, may sound insane, but that's just one avenue. There's probably 1,000 different avenues to explore, And that's what I mean by preparing for death and what the ancients would say. And modern philosophies as well. I mean, if you're an atheist, so you believe there's just nothing, it'd be like before you were born, just not even blackness, because that would constitute something, it's just nothing once you die. Then why the hell do we care about anything? We may as well all, kill ourselves now. I think that's atheism is the most naive worldview, with all the things that we don't understand and all the synchronicities and coincidences. There's, in my opinion, no doubt that there's a higher power controlling all of this, or at least having an input or started it all. So that's something I have a big issue with. I'd love to sit around with my friends and loved ones and discuss all of these topics and about how we want to die and the process of it. I'd love for more people to have a detailed death. What I mean by that is the experience to be recorded, the feelings that they have when passing over, for as long as they can, communicate that information. It would be absolutely amazing if we found a way to kind of hold on to the consciousness and see what is on the other side before we can go there, just so we can get a grasp on what we need to do and how to prepare for when that time happens for ourselves. The Archon experience, what I mentioned earlier, we're being tricked into coming here. I actually had a dream a year ago and it resonated with me a lot. It was at the house that I grew up in. Everybody who I knew was there, so people from my current life, people from 10 years ago, all my family was there, friends, even down to the cars that they used to drive. Everything that was familiar to me was at this house where I was most familiar, where I spent all my childhood growing up. And I remember walking into the kitchen of the house and my dad followed me in. And I remember turning to my dad and I looked at him, and all of a sudden I realized that that wasn't my dad. And I actually said to this thing impersonating my father, I know what you're trying to do. You've done a great job getting all of this familiar things around me, but I'm not going to fall for it. I know this isn't real, and I know that you're not my dad. And all of a sudden, it's like a veil was lifted, and I left my body, my physical body, and it was just vast darkness around me. And what I would imagine what being pure consciousness feels like, I wasn't my body anymore. And this entity dissolved as well. And I could just feel its presence. I couldn't see it. It wasn't kind of senses that were experiencing it. I just knew it was there. And the only sense that I did have was my hearing. And it actually said to me that you will come with us. And then it started speaking a language that I don't know or don't understand. And after a kind of 10 or so seconds of this, I kind of forced myself to wake up because it was quite disturbing, the whole experience. And that kind of got me thinking a lot about, the kind of reincarnation trap and the experience of dying and then reincarnating. Because I think a lot of us do have kind of this inner knowing that we can tap into sometimes. And the science is like bizarre on where dreams come from. We don't really understand dreams anyway. So that's all up in the air for me about what they really are. Now, it's possible that whole experience was just due to the fact that I was looking into these topics and, reading about archons and how they deceive and trick us. And as a result, my subconscious picked up on that, and there was the dream. It's completely possible, but it's still an avenue that I want to explore, since many ancient, people, civilizations have discussed the jinn or the archons. So that's just one example. But yeah, I do find it bizarre how people avoid the topic, and it's going to be something that my spouse's father is going to be going through. And everyone's different, but if that was me, I'd be using every moment wisely to prepare for this, to share as much love as I could, and not kind of get engaged with the matrix distractions that are constantly around us. He's still chasing whether or not to use his sick leave or not at work, and just girlfriends and distractions like that. Whether that's a coping mechanism or whether that's truly the matrix has got its fingers in him. and is able to control him up to the point of where he passes away, where none of this materialism should even come over, spring to mind, because that's definitely not what's important when you've got weeks or maybe months left to live. So yeah, it's just a few of my thoughts there, guys. Thanks for listening.